Bismillah, wassalatu wassalamu ala rasulillah. Rabbi shrah li sadri wa yassir li amri wahlul uqdatan min lisani yafqahu qawli. Rabbi yassir wa la tu'assir wa tammim bil khair. Let's begin lesson number 24. And inshallah, in lesson number 24, we will discuss derived form number 9. So as we know that we are discussing with the derived forms, we started from number 2 and now Alhamdulillah, we have reached up to number 9. It is called if'ilalun, as we can see here, if'ilalun. And this is basically the least commonly used verb form in the Quran and also in the Arabic language. However, it's one of the forms of the verb, so we have to deal with it. In this form, as we can see here, Hamza and Tashdid are extra. So as we know that these are Mazid fi abwab, and we know that in Mazid fi there is always something extra. So we can see that here Hamza is extra and also Tashdid is extra. So it's if'alla, yaf'allu, if'ilalun. And you know that we have idgham here, so we merge lam twice, and also we have assimilation over here. But when we talk about the masdar, then the assimilation opens up, so it becomes if'ilalun. And on this pattern, we are going to learn, inshallah, the verb which is iswadda, yaswaddu, iswidadun. As we know that the patterns and the words that we do on the patterns are always the same. The letters will be the same. For example, here we have as we can see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and also we will have 5 letters over here. However, we know that the harakat will not change, but the letters will always change. So here we have if'alla, and here we have iswadda, yaswaddu, iswidadun. And the verse of the Quran that we have over here, أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم فأما الذين اسودت وجوههم, and for those whose face turned black. So as we know that wujuh is the plural of wajhun, and we know that this is wajhun is ghayru aqil, and when we make its plural, the plural will be like singular feminine. So wujuh is singular feminine, so that's why the verb that is used for wujuh is also for the singular feminine, iswaddat. And we know that we will discuss inshallah later that the hamza is hamzatul wasl, so when we connect it, then we don't read it, so it will be فَأَمَّا الَّذِينَ اسْوَدَّتْ وُجُوهُهُمْ. The note over here, so you remember that starting from number 7, 8, 9, and 10, all these 4 forms, the Hamza is Hamzatul Wasl. So this is called the form of Hamza and Tashdid, form of Hamza and Tashdid, which is from number 9. So Hamzatul Wasl is always sakin, as we know when we connect it with waw or fa or any other letter. So as we can see here that it is basically iswadda, and when we connect it with waw, it becomes waswadda, and when we connect it with fa, it becomes faswadda. And we also know that it's not restricted only to fa and wa, it can be any other letter, but we know that wa and fa are used a lot, so that's why, for example, we use faswadda and waswadda. And when does that happen? It happens in the 3 forms. What are those 3 forms? The past tense, al-madi. So it will be waswadda, as we can see over here. So wow has gone a little bit further. And then we have al-amru. So it will be waswadda, and al-masdaru will be waswidadun. So the idea is whenever we connect hamzatul wasl with waw or fa or any other letter, then it is not pronounced. It becomes sakin. Characteristics of form number 9. There is only one characteristic, as we can see over here, that form number 9 is used for colors and defects. Colors and defects, nothing else. So this form is used only for colors and defects, as we can see over here. And if you look at the verse of the Quran, أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم يوم تبيض وجوه وتسود وجوه فأما الذين اسودت وجوههم أكفرتم بعد إيمانكم فذوقوا العذاب بما كنتم تكفرون. Okay, now Yawma Why is it light? Why is it not yawmun? Does anyone remember? Something that we discussed in the previous lesson, not previous lesson, lesson number 22. Any idea? It is used as mudaf, dharfun wa mudafun. So it is used as mudaf, and we know that mudaf is always light, and the rest of the verbal sentence is mudaf ilayh. So we need to know these things. We have discussed this many times. So yawma is dharf fahuwa mudafun, and the whole of the verbal sentence tabiyaddu wujuhum wa taswaddu wujuh will be mudaf ilayh, and the whole sentence is in the place of jar. The whole sentence is majroor. Why the whole sentence is majroor? Because the whole sentence is mudaf ilayh. Yawma is mudaf, the whole sentence is mudaf ilayh. So that's why we have yawma over here. On the day when some faces will turn bright, so Allahumma jalna minhum, yawma tabyaddu wujuhun, and while other faces will turn dark, Allahumma la taj'alna minhum, oh Allah, don't make us among them. As for those whose faces turn dark, as we can see over here, again, naswaddat, they will be told, did you disbelieve after having believed? Taste the punishment for your disbelief. And also, inshallah, in this lesson, we will also discuss about ma as well. We have discussed about this previously, and once again, inshallah, we will discuss about it. Bima kuntum takfurun. So that's the only characteristic that form number 9 has. Okay, so we started our journey from form number 1, and we know that form number 1 can be fa'ala, it can be fa'ila, and it can be fa'ula. And we call this the base verb, and after that, starting from 2 up to number 9, we call them mazid fi. And the reason why we call them mazid fi, because here in form number 2, 3, and 4, there is one extra letter, and here from 5 to 9, there are 2 extra letters. That's why we call them mazid fi. Okay, now something is left out over here, and something is left out over here. So please provide me with at least one characteristic of form number 1. Do you remember form number 1? What is the characteristic of form number 1? It is used. It's a regular verb. Excellent. Perfect. And then we have form number 2, fa'ala, yufa'ilu taf'ilan. What about form number 2? Do you remember any characteristic?
It is intensive, sir.
Intensive. Excellent. Causative and intensive. Excellent. Causative and intensive. Then we have form number 3, fa'ala, yufa'ilu mufa'alatan. What about form number 3? It is reciprocal. Yeah, excellent. Yeah, so that means the action, there are 2 parties or 2 persons involved in the action. Generally, one is active and the other is passive. Okay, af'ala, form number 4, af'ala yufi'lu if'alan. Yes, what about this? It is causative. Excellent. Causative. Yeah. So basically form number 2 and form number 4 are causative. However, we know that form number 2 is also intensive, whereas form number 4 is not intensive. So what happens? They change a verb from fi'l lazim, they change it into muta'addi. So nazala, for example, nazala, he came down. Nazzala, he brought down. And similarly, we have anzala, to bring someone down as well. So on the pattern of af'ala, we discussed anzala, and also we discussed nazzala. Okay, then we move on to the verbs that have 2 extra letters. So tafa'ala. What about tafa'ala? Does anyone remember? Reflexive of?
Form 2, sir.
Form 2, excellent. Reflexive of form 2. What does that mean? Form 2 is causative. You cause something to someone, but in tafa'ala, you cause something to yourself. You cause something to yourself. For example, allama is to teach. Allama is to teach, so we teach someone something, right? And when we take it to from number 5, ta'allama, that means to learn. That means to what? Learn. Similarly, dhakkara, to remind, and tadhakkara, to remember. So dhakkara is to remind. Of course, we normally remind others. And tadhakkara, we do the remembrance for ourselves. Okay, then we have tafa'ala from number 6. What about from number 6?
It is a group action, Ustad.
As Sandy, yes, it's about the group action where everyone is the doer of the action. So the difference basically from number between from number 3 and from number 6 is in 3, one is active and one is passive. And in from number 6, everyone is active and no one is passive. Everyone is the doer of the action. That's why sometimes they call it that this is reflexive of from number 3. But I think the easiest way to remember is to say that is group action. وَتَعَاوَنُوا عَلَى الْبِرِّ وَالتَّقْوَى وَلَا تَعَاوَنُوا عَلَى الْإِثْمِ وَالْعُدْوَانِ. So if you remember one example of the Quran, inshallah, that will be enough. So ta'awun is basically everyone is helping the other person. So everyone is helping. Everyone is active in the group. Then we have from number 7, in fa'ala. Yes, what about in fa'ala? Does anyone remember? It is passive of from number 1. So from number 1, we say kasara, he broke. But when we take it into from number 7, in kasara, that means something that breaks by itself. Something that breaks by itself. From number 8, very, very common. We discussed in the previous lesson. The whole lesson consisted of many examples from this form. If the yes.
Reflexive, Ustad, of
Excellent, yeah. Reflexive of form number 1. So this is also reflexive of form number 1. However, if you remember, we discussed around 5 to 6 characteristics of form number 8. And from number 9, I told you today that we use it for colors and defects. Colors and defects, okay? So now if you can take a picture of this, and if you can save it somewhere, somewhere that you can see it every day, inshallah, once you master these forms, you will see that once you are reciting the Quran, you will find it on a different level. So this is a summary of all the forms, and as of now, if you can remember only one characteristic, that will be perfect. And inshallah, with the passage of time, we will get used to more characteristics. How do we remember this? Doing tasbih and mujahada are from the basics of Islam. So doing is basically fa'ala, sabbaha, jahada, aslama. So doing is basically fa'ala, sabbaha, jahada, aslama. Doing tasbih and mujahada are from the basics of Islam. If we do tadabbur and ta'awun, tadabbara, ta'awana. If we do tadabbur and ta'awun, then what happens? There will be inqilab, there will be turnover, less ikhtilaf, and no iswidad. So today we discussed about blackness. So there will be, inshallah, no blackness, like nothing will be black. So there will be turnover, there will be less ikhtilaf, which is very common these days. And inshallah, as a result, there will be no iswidad. Inqalaba, ikhtalafa, and iswadda. So now if you can memorize this as well, so inshallah, this will help you a lot to remember all these forms of the verb. Doing tasbih and mujahada from the basics of Islam. Fa'ala, sabbaha, jahada, aslama. 1, 2, 3, 4. If we do tadabbur and ta'awan, tadabbara and ta'awana. 5, 6. There will be inqilab, less ikhtilaf, and no iswidad. 7, 8, and 9. We know that from number 1 is red. And why it is red? Because it is al-thulathi al-mujarrad. This is the base form. It has only 3 letters. And starting from 2 up to 9, all of them are mazid fi. They have extra 1 letter or extra 2 letters. Now something interesting over here for this bab from number 9. The past and command happen to be on the same pattern in this verb. For example, iswadda is the past tense from, as we know that sigha number 1, iswadda, yaswaddu, iswidadan. And when you make fi'l al-amr, the fi'l al-amr will be also on the same pattern. So How do we know fi'l al-amr? We know that when we make fi'l al-amr, we take the second person, al-mukhatab. So we have taswaddu. Now, what is the step of making fi'l al-amr? Do you remember? We make the ending sakin, right?
Sakin.
Yeah, we make the ending sakin. But here what happens, as we know that here there is assimilation. So there is assimilation. So basically there are dalan. We have two dals over here, we can say, and they have been merged into one dal. So this is something which is not normal. So that's why the change that will take place is also not normal. So what we will do to reflect the change, Dhamma changes into Fatha. And we have discussed about this in book number 2 in detail. All the verbs that are muda'af or doubled verbs, they follow the same pattern. So what happens? Dhamma changes into Fatha. So after that, what do we have to do? We have to drop alamat al-mudari. Yeah? So when we drop alamat al-mudari, it is not readable because you know that no word in Arabic language start with the sakin. So it's not readable. So what do? We add what? We add Hamzatul Wasl. Okay, so Hamzatul Wasl takes kasra. Why it takes kasra? Because here we don't have Dhamma. So if we don't have Dhamma, so now subhanAllah, what happens? Here it is Fi'l al-Amr and here it is the past tense. So both of them happen to be on the same pattern. So small things that we really need to find out about the Arabic language. So these are the interesting facts that we really appreciate about the beauty of the Arabic language. So we have the past tense iswadda, yaswaddu, iswedadun. Fi'l al-amr iswadda, as we have discussed recently. So fi'l al-amr and the past tense are the same. Fi'l nahi will be la taswadda. So it was basically taswaddu. And we know that to reflect the change, what we have to do, we have to change Dhamma into Fatha. So it was basically Dhamma, taswaddu. And now we know that it has become sakin. So when it becomes sakin, we cannot drop dal because it is assimilated. So how to reflect the change? The change will be reflected in the form of Fatha. So it changed into Fatha. Ismul fa'il, very simple. As we know, it will be muswaddun. We know that all the derived forms of the verb, when we talk about ismul fa'il and ismul maf'ul, we have to add mu. And after adding mu, what we do, we simply take the mudari, for example, here, and in the mudari we change ya into ma. So we change it into ma, and what we do in the end, we put the tanween, so it becomes muswaddun, ismul fa'il. Ismul maf'ul is also muswaddun. Now, if you remember, even in the previous form, for example, muttarrun, mumtazun, we discussed that it was basically muswadidun. So it was muswadidun. So whenever we have kasra and whenever we have dhamma over here or tanween, so whenever we assimilate, the rule of the assimilation is this kasra will be dropped and it will change into dhamma. So it becomes muswaddun. What about ismul maf'ul? What will be the pattern of ismul maf'ul? It will be muswadadun. Yeah, it will be muswadadun. And here assimilation is easier. So here when we assimilate it, it also changes into muswaddun. And here we have fatha. So this is easier. So how to recognize whether it is ismul fa'il or ismul maf'ul? It depends on the context. From the context, we will come to know if it is used as ismul fa'il or it is used as ismul maf'ul. What is the small conjugation? As-sarfu as-saghiru. Iswadda, yaswaddu, iswedadun, fahuwa, muswaddun. No passive. This form does not have passive. Why? For this form, as the verbs in this form are intransitive. Fi'l al-lazim. So, you know, like fi'l al-lazim, we cannot make from them, we cannot make passive. It's not possible. So it's similar to form number 7. You know, in form number 7, we don't have passive. Similarly, form number 9, we don't have passive. And fi'l al-amr will be iswadda. Fi'l al-nahi will be la taswadda. And ismul maf'ul will be muswaddun. And we know that ismul maf'ul is also used as dharf az-zaman wal makan. If needed, it can be also used as dharf, as we can see over here. So this is our small conjugation. Now, if you see over here from number 9, the most important thing that we need to remember, for some augmented verbs, the unaugmented verbs may not exist as in the case above. So it's not possible that every derived form in form number 9 should have also the thalathi al-mujarrad. It should also have 3 root letters. It's not possible for all of them. It's a very unique form of the verb. So there is possibility that we might find 1 or 2 verbs that exist in the verbs that have 3 root letters or athalathi al-mujarrad, but most of the verbs do not have from number 1. For example, ihmarra, and also it gives the meaning of passive as well. He or it turned red, so something that became red. Iswadda, something that turned black. Ibyadda, something that turned white. I'wajja is something that became crooked. So we can see over here that i'wajja has a thalathi al-mujarrad. It has the base verb, but the rest of the verbs, as we can see over here, ihmarra, iswadda, and ibyadda, they do not have the basic form. They only have the from number 9. Now, mashallah, you can see over here, our chart has become so big. We started from number 1, then we started from 2, and we kept on moving, and alhamdulillah, we have reached from number 9. So the only thing that we need to remember over here, as I mentioned previously, that from number 7 and from number 9, they do not have ismul maf'ul, as we can see over here. Why? Because they have the passive meaning. So passive cannot have passive for itself. So here we have infa'ala, yanfa'ilu, infa'il, infi'al, munfa'il, but there is no passive. And similarly, if'alla, yaf'allu, and fi'l al-amr is if'alla and if'ilalun. And then here we do not have, we have ismul fa'il, muf'allun, but we do not have ismul maf'ul, as we can see over here. So these 2 forms from number 7 and from number 9, they do not have ismul maf'ul. However, it is possible that they can have dharf, ismul maf'ul being used as a dharf, like munqalab. So we know munqalab is used as dharf, the place of return. So dharf is possible, but ismul maf'ul is not possible from these 2 forms. Okay, now something interesting. This bab has another form with the addition of alif after the second radical. So what we have basically, we have hamza and tashdid, and there is an addition of alif to that as well. So we can say if Allah is from number 9a, and we can say that if Allah is b. So it has 2 forms. However, we don't really need to worry a lot about it, because it is not used. It's been used, I think, only once in the Quran. So that's why we don't really need to bother about it. So, but since it's the part of the derived forms of the verb, so we can take it as well. So we have ihmarra, it became red. The meaning will be the same, by the way. The meaning will be the same. And similarly, we have idhamma, something that became dark green, as we can see over here. So the mudari of ihmarra will be yahmarru, and ismul fa'il will be muhmarrun. Everything will be the same, and its masdar will be ihmirarun. So the only addition is addition of ya over here. So that was iswedadun, but it will be ihmirarun. So that's the difference that we have to see in the masdar. Something important over here, note that the verb like ishtadda. Okay, ishtadda, which form do you think is this? Is this from number 8 or 9? Yes. What do you think? Is this from number 8 or 9? Is it ifta'ala or is this if'alla?
If'alla, Ustad.
No. Look, from number 8, what is the unique? Yeah, so whatever, this is something very unique, okay? So whenever you see ta, that means this is from number 8. It cannot be from number 9. It's not possible because we know form number 8 is what? Ifta'ala, yafta'ilu, ifta'alan. So that's why Sheikh has beautifully brought over here that the verb like ishtadda is not from bab if'alla, but it is from ifta'ala, from shadda. So the base verb is shadda, yashuddu shaddan. So this is the base verb, and the ta in ishtadda is basically extra. And we know that when we have extra ta, that means this is from number 8, which is ifta'ala. But both the dals, as we can see here, are original because its radical is sha, da. So the original form number 1 is what? It is shadda. And when we take into form number 8, it becomes ishtadda. In determining the babs, we must find out the radicals. The forms in certain cases may be deceptive. So that's why we need to be sometimes careful. As it is slightly deceptive, we thought that it might be from number 9, but it turned up to be from number 8. And why it is from number 8? Because it has extra ta into that. Okay, so just a small conjugation for from number 9 as well. So we will call it 9. We will call it what? 9b. It is 9b, as we can see over here. So if alan, and the verb that I have taken from the Quran, as we can see over here, is idham, yadhamu, idhimamun, fahuwa, mudhamun. Mudhamun. So mudhamun can be ismul fa'il, it can be ismul maf'ul. So most likely it is ismul fa'il, mudhamun. And what is the feminine of mudhamun? The feminine of mudhamun will be mudhammatun. Mudhammatun, as we can see over here. What will be the dual of mudhammatun? Mudhammatan. Mudhammatan. And look at the beautiful verse from the Quran, Surah Ar-Rahman, as we can see here. Mudhammatan, dark green in color. Mudhammatan. Okay, so just subhanallah, just like, as we have to learn the Quran, and that's why, as we can see, that even to figure out one word in the Quran, we alhamdulillah tried our best to figure out, and alhamdulillah, that is what we call tadabbur and tadarus of the Quran. And inshallah, if we continue, inshallah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will bless us with more and more. So now we can see over here that form number 9 has 2 basically forms. It can be if'alla, and also it can be if'alun, as we can see over here. And this is the example from the Quran. Naktafi bihada, inshallah. So I think this is enough for this lesson. I hope you try to go through all this again and inshallah practice this. And in the next session, when we start our lesson, the text of the lesson, inshallah, then we will discuss all these things more in detail. Subhanaka Allahumma wa bihamdika, ashhadu an la ilaha illa ant, astaghfiruka wa atubu ilayk. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Walaikum salam.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.